Uh, you are hearing me, we will continue to chat very shortly. This is a chance for us to engage on discussions about questions and answers on some of the issues that is affecting our country, and this is the first time a Facebook live chat has taken place in our country. And I am hoping that despite a bit of a technical problem, we are able to communicate with you directly tonight. I thank you for joining me this evening. It is not often that I use Facebook, but I think it's important that this new medium, which has been used widely by our people in our country to debate and discuss issues of national importance and personal issues on Facebook, but I would like to confine my That's why I chose to talk about our economy, because the challenges that we are facing in our country today are largely driven by the economy, and how the economy performs, and how we will continue to solve our aspirations of to develop and to provide services to our people in our country. That is why I chose that this is an important issue to discuss. Also noting very well that there are other challenges in education, health, law and order, and so forth, which I believe that are equally important. But this all depends on how we have the economy performing. If the economy performs well, we are able to address many of these issues as well. Firstly, the economy in our country is not doing that well, as many of you may be experiencing in your day-to-day living in our country. But in terms of the performance of our economy, it very much depends on some of the issues that are being affected globally, and I think it is important that we appreciate what's happening around us. In terms of the global economy, we see that the commodity prices have now returned to pre-COVID high, meaning that the prices have risen to levels of that we did not experience during the COVID period, and they are now higher prices that have been received by commodities like gold, copper, coffee, oil, and gas. So our revenue stream that is coming into the country should be healthy, but domestically we are struggling to ensure that this inflow of revenues that we are getting from these exports of commodities in the country are not able to maintain the growth levels that we want to maintain in PNG. Our economy declined by at least 3% in 2020. Growth have been experienced today, and they're predicting in 2022. But we have predicted in our country, and I want to be as constructive as possible, and I don't want this to be a necessarily politically motivated discussion. I want to make sure that we are constructive in our discussion. I say that our government has predicted 10.6% growth in 2021. That's at the back of a decline in the growth of our economy of up to 3% in 2020. So you're talking about a turnaround in the economy about 13%. That's quite challenging for any government, given that the previous year you had a decline and then you're projecting a growth in the coming year. And to that, we are now at the end of the 6 months of our financial year, and there is no signs of improvement in the performance of the economy. So this growth prediction by our economists and our experts will most likely be not achieved because of the lackluster performance of our economy so far. In 2021, our government predicted a revenue base of 13 billion kina from taxes and grants, but at the same time increased the expenditure levels of up to almost 19.6 billion kina. So that means there's a gap of about 6.6 billion which they need to finance so that they can finance these expenditure levels that they have predicted. And so far, our revenue collections are low, and it is likely that we are not able to meet our target at the end of the year. These borrowings that we will need to borrow to finance our deficit levels have been, as government has announced from time to time, has been achieved over the last 6 months. Of course, in last year, almost 6 billion kina was borrowed to finance the budget and COVID-related expenses. And this year, further 6.6 billion plus is being borrowed. And I know that the government is saying that they are very proud of the achievements of 0% zero interest rate borrowings that they are getting from partner countries like Australia, Japan, and the World Bank. At the back of a COVID environment that is expected from all these international partners we have, so we thank them for it. But they are not free money. We still need to repay that money. It is not free. Of course, interest rate is free, but there are also other administrative costs that will come and will associate with it itself. But at the back of that, we are also going to the central bank and printing money and issuing government bonds and treasury bills at an average of about 10 to 12%. That is costing us money. Our domestic borrowings are increasing at the same time. So all in all, it is certainly not interest-free. We have to appreciate that the economy and the GDP of our country, in 2011, it was around about 40 billion kina GDP, 40 billion. And I quote these figures because they are official records by our Treasury and, of course, Treasury and Central Bank and other internationally institutions like IMF, World Bank, ADB, and so forth who appreciate that these are the numbers of actual numbers that has been achieved over these years. So 2011, we had 40 billion kina GDP. And then in 2019, when we left office, it was just over 80 billion kina GDP. But last year that declined almost by 10 billion kina, and we just achieved over 70 billion kina. So there's a decline in our GDP as well, which is a reflection of the decline in the growth of our economy. So if this trend continues in 2021, there will be further decline in our GDP. And if the growth's in negative territory, I'm certain that more and more hardship will be faced within our country. Also in 2011, the debt to GDP levels with the then government was about 30%. And when we left in 2019, it was at around about 35% because we increased the limits up to 35%. And then, of course, recently the government increased it up to 65%. But today the debt to GDP ratios are averaging around 60%, and it's increasing every time we are borrowing money. If 65% of GDP is a serious concern, and we need to take account of managing our debt, which is going to be invested in programs and policies that are going to grow the economy, not necessarily for consumption. What we have been doing is borrowing to fund our recurrent budget. And funding recurrent budgets do not help grow the economy. We need to invest in economic infrastructure. We need to invest in programs that are going to boost business and of course, improve our quality of life and improve productivity because we have a very healthy population. So education, health, and all those are nation-building infrastructures that we need to continue to invest in our country. Today, compounded by that, I am just giving you some of the suggestions of how I see how the economy is struggling, and then we can talk about some of the options that we may have down the track. And after that, I will, of course, answer some of your questions that you will have. But today, in addition to all the issues that we have with the economy, we are also lacking in business confidence in the country. If you look across the business community right across the country, from Port Moresby to every town and city in the country, you will see that they lack confidence in investing. Decisions are changed consistently, agreements are not being honored, and of course, this kind of investment in the private sector leads to growth of employment, increase in tax revenue. So it's a cycle that we need to appreciate, that our country needs this investment to continue to grow so that our economy can continue to grow. This also means that if the economy is struggling, our tax revenue to the country will struggle as well. Less profitability by companies means that less company tax has been paid. Less employment in the opportunities and more unemployed people in the country means less people are paying personal tax to the nation. If the people are not employed and they are not earning an income, that means less and less people are going to shops, buying shops and paying GST. More businesses are not buying cars and all the other necessary equipments that are able to fund, that are being able to fund the businesses so that they can be profitable. That is why you will find that this is the situation that we are having. When government is just focusing on spending and continues to increase spending from what has been budgeted, then we will be in serious trouble. So the only way that is to is government must have some idea about reforms and making sure there's expenditure cuts. And of course, there is no development funds. Government is not spending money on development, except to date, only government has been paying DSIP. And let me put it there, the government is only paying. Opposition members have been starved of the DSIP. And again, this is wrong, because it is not the member who owns those seats and who are in opposition. It is the service that has been delivered to the people. So no has happened. That's the only development funds that have been spent in this country. There is no new infrastructure investment. There is no new economic investment in the country. There is no new investment in the country, and these are challenging. And of course, government needs to come up with an economic stimulus package to deal with SMEs. So far, the SME policy of trying to invest in agriculture bank has failed. They should learn from what we invested in the housing package program. Today, many Papua New Guineans are enjoying the opportunity to get a loan at BSP at 4% for 40 years, because our government at the time put 200 million kina and then a further 200 million kina, which was matched by BSP. These are sort of proven programs that is benefiting a lot of Papua New Guineans, and SMEs funding should be allocated directly to these banks so that they have the capacity to assess and make sure that people who are borrowing are credit worthy and they're able to repay it, so other Papua New Guineans can borrow as well. So I think you will find that investment in housing and of course small SMEs and rebuilding the tourism industry in the country, investing in agriculture through land mobilization and giving opportunities to, land is a big challenging thing in this country. And if we must continue to mobilize land so that people can have large chunks of land so they can get into large-scale agricultural production in this country. That's the only way we can be able to increase our export. I'll give you an example in the coffee industry. Close to 1 million bags of coffee a year. Today, they'll be lucky to export 600,000 bags of coffee a year. This is an industry that is crying for help. And again, much of the challenges is to do with accessibility to capital and credit, and also issues dealing with land in many parts of our country. And similar challenges are being faced right across the country, and I think government needs to engage more meaningfully rather than just giving lip service, so that we can be able to together ensure that land is available for agricultural development, tourism development, SME development, right throughout the country. We certainly have got a long way to go, and I want to be very realistic about this. I think it's important that we work together in making sure that we meet these challenging times that we face ahead. We cannot continue to blame COVID as the issue that is affecting our country. COVID is experienced by many other countries around the world. We need to ensure that we have our economy continuing to grow just as well as much as many other countries around the world are doing. So I think it is important that we work together, and some of the unnecessary COVID measures that has been put in place, it's affecting businesses right throughout the country. And these businesses are owned by moms and dads and our citizens who are not able to find any other employment except to do those small businesses. And to keep it open is very much must be our priority. And these policies and meaningful programs that can be able to achieve the outcomes that we want to do. We have to be realistic about our growth projections. You know, having projections of 10% or 11% is unheard of in many parts of the global economy and countries. We need to bring those growth projections down to realistic level, up to 2 or 3%, and frame our budget around it so that you have realistic revenue measures, and of course, at the same time, restore confidence. And the second issue is we must restore confidence in the business community. They are the biggest investors in our country, whether it be large or small or medium size. They drive the economy of our country. That we have to appreciate, and a meaningful engagement with the business community is something that we are lacking today. And that is why many of our projects are on hold. When we have the LNG project and some of the mining projects that have been debated back and forth, those agreements need to be concluded and realistic time measures put, not time measures that announced on the run, which are not going to be achieved, which we've seen to be the case in the past. These are things that give a lack of confidence to our people, and to our business community. Again, also our business community that is already in the country, our local business community, and of course our also. And I think this is the trouble that we are facing today. And when business community does not make money, as I said in the previous, and if they are not making profits, the tax revenue to the government declines. That is why our tax revenue today is declined, because businesses are not making money. Since the COVID closure almost a year and a half ago, many businesses have closed. They've readjusted their cost structure. They've terminated many of our Papua New Guinean citizens who are out of jobs now. As a result, they're trying to bring the cost down so they can survive. This is largely because their revenue base has come down. It is estimated by the business community that close to about 30% drop in revenue in many of the businesses right across the country. Any given circumstances, that is not a good scenario. Many businesses will go broke as banks continue to put pressure on the repayments of loans and finances that they're given to businesses. And this is where government and we as leaders must come in to support the business and give them confidence that they continue to invest in our country. The third issue, third suggestion that I'm making is that the taxation rates in the country also needs to be reviewed, especially in light of trying to stimulate the economy. The tax reviews must drive some of these stimulus programs that are happening. And one way to do it is to reduce personal tax. So people have more money in their pockets and they be able to maintain a standard of living and able to educate their children and put in terms of medical need, they're able to look after their families. But most in their pocket with the reduction in tax, this is the time to do it. Not when the economy is good, you try to reduce the tax. This is the time. And once people have money in the pocket, when they spend money in shops and in many places, you will find that the government's revenue for GST will increase. So there will be some level of balancing going on. So I think the timing is right, and our experts can put the numbers together to see at what levels they can pitch. But I think a genuine tax review is something that is necessary in the country. Again, as I said, one thing we need to do is to put a stimulus package together for the economy. We need to kickstart the economy. The economy cannot start by itself, and we expect that outsiders will come and help. Otherwise, we will be borrowing these COVID loans for over the next 4 or 5 years. We must invest in SMEs with a realistic program. We have to understand that government departments and our leaders are not best managers in managing some of these programs. We are policy makers, we are legislators. We must leave the implementation part to experts who are able to deliver this. And for SME and of course agriculture and housing and some of these economic programs, you can partner the private sector. They have experts who are able to deliver this for us. And one of them is to, as I said recently, is about the SOEs, PNG Power, of course Air Niugini and some of the other PNG Water and some of the other SOEs that we've got, even banking services. You must bring private sector management, even if it done, and I'll give you an example. We've done this before. It's not something new. When Air Niugini was struggling some 20 years ago, we brought KLM. This is a German-based airline to come and manage our airline, and they turned the airline around. And Air Niugini became what is it today because of that effort. So we have achieved some good results in the past, and some of the other sectors need to follow those examples and bring back sensibility in delivery of service. Our people want services. These are life quality services that improve quality of life for our people. It just cannot be taken for granted. Electricity, water, housing, all these are necessary for us to invest in. Again, we must invest in roads and bridges. This is something that will boost our growth of our economy, increase business activities, and ensure that our people continue to. The key thing is these businesses will provide decent employment for our people, and I think it's necessary for us to work with the business community so that this can be achieved. And the other thing that I suggest is that we must, this prediction of spending 19.6 billion kina in 2021 budget, when we know our revenue is falling and we are borrowing more money, but at the same time we're increasing the spending. And spending is not on, as I said before, on development infrastructure programs or development projects that will stimulate all these things that we have financial. We must pull back and try and be realistic and have realistic reforms in the public service sector. Cut some of the non-priority areas. So this is the time to cut. When the economy is struggling, you've got to come back and live within our means. The priority areas that government should be doing. Nobody is talking about reforms in the public service or public sector today. That is why every department, every ministry, everybody is spending it. All they're focusing is on spending. Spending, achieving what? Achieving virtually nothing. And this is something that any government should look at. As I said, reforms in the SOE is another. And if they combine these two, we should be able to achieve and stop the bleeding that is taking place in the country. measures that we are taking is killing business, killing the growth of the economy, killing delivery of services in the country. We have to be realistic about how we target the measures that we have the targeted measures to control this COVID that's coming into the country. The only way COVID is coming into the country, because we don't have many cruise ships coming, the only way that is coming is people coming by planes. And when they arrive in PNG, there must be some strict measures taking place. Not necessarily shutting down the public and shutting down the business community and shutting down the activity of delivery of service or growth of the economy in the country. This must function on a day-to-day basis. But if we control it to the movement of people in and out of the country properly, like every other country is doing, I'm certain that we can be on top of the COVID control, rather than just shutting down our economy and everybody is out of jobs, all the businesses are suffering, and the economy as a result will continue to suffer as a result. One final measure that I think we should do is that we're facing the elections in 2022. Collect revenue and of course maintain the services that things are not done now and start preparing now. I think what will happen in 2022 is will be as the chaos that we have experienced in Goroka, the chaos that we have experienced in Mosby Northwest. Now again, I congratulate the members who have won on the seats, but the stop-start and all the other complaints that we are hearing, that must be a thing of the past. We have attended many elections in the past, and I think if we are not careful, 2022 will be the worst elections we have faced. So I'm hoping that we will continue to engage meaningfully in many aspects of the management of our economy. But these are some of my thoughts, and these are my own personal thoughts. I see that there are very many comments coming through, and I will try my best to answer as much as possible and as many as possible. But I think if I don't answer your questions, I'll try my best to answer them right after the session is over. But I think it's important that we continue to engage meaningfully on many of these. Some of the first questions that I'm in is very much on issues like someone has asked me, I don't have to necessarily mention names, but someone has asked me about the recent new 100 million Kenya World Bank loan. Well, generally it's what we all hear from the newspapers on what the loan is for. It's COVID related and trying to assist us in kickstarting the economy. But if we are going to pay public servants and administrative costs with this money, it's just a waste. That's my thoughts. They should be investing in economic stimulus programs, which will stimulate the growth of our economy and invest in reviving small business. A bad loan. Loans are not that bad, except it's how you utilize them and how you are able to invest in the country. I know many have accused my government of borrowing too much money, but I can assure everyone that I can go to every part of the country and I can point out projects and infrastructure that we have built in many of these provinces with the loans that we have achieved. We have focused during our time on investing in infrastructure that will grow the economy and deliver services. We invest in health, education, infrastructure, building in ports, bridges, airports, and so forth. So I think it's important that we continue to attract such low cost long term. The only other issue that I have with the loans that we are getting for COVID is that some of the loans are very short term, 12 months, 24 months, 3 years. although they are not attracting interest, they are large chunks. I mean, US 100 million or Australian 200 million is almost 300 or 400 million kina, and if they ask you to repay that at one go, you know we are going to struggle to repay that. And that's not the situation that we want our of not defaulting on any loan, even though we've gone through struggles. At the international level and international community level, we have never ever defaulted in paying, not repaying our loans in time. Also, when we talk about tax reviews, yes, people are saying that why didn't you do some of these things when we were PM, like the tax review? We put in a tax review committee together to review the tax, and as I said, quite frankly, I was quite disappointed with the results that came back, and I've made that known publicly. I was disappointed with some of the recommendations, and I was not ready to proceed with them. And one of the major recommendations was to increase GST from 10% to 15%. Now, that increase of 5% is going to hit the small families more than anyone else. Those who are at the lowest income levels will be affected more than anyone else, because they go to the shops every single day to buy bread and butter, and rice and tin fish and bully beef, so that they can feed their family every day. And this person is going to pay 5% more each time when he goes to the shop. So some of those recommendations were not realistic, and in my own mind, as I saw, very steady economic growth. And we wanted to make sure that the revenue coming to the state was maintained at a predictable level, and we were not in a position to reduce tax to relieve, because we had surpluses in our budget. And if we had a surplus budget year after year after year, then of course there's a times when you can review the tax and try and cut it. But today it's about stimulating the economy. And producing milk anymore, there won't be any milk. Similarly, companies, if they are not making any profits, I can assure you that they will not pay tax. If a person is unemployed, I can assure you that they will not pay tax. If a company feels that he had to cut costs and they are sacking people, they are not paying salaries and wages tax. That is why I am saying these two particular tax rates must be reviewed, because if you put money back into the community, and if you put money back into companies, they will reinvest, and they will of course spend money in the country, which you can collect through GST. You don't necessarily have to increase GST. As I said, it will balance out so that we can maintain an healthy inflow of state revenue into the country. So I think that is where we are. And of course, the same issue about reforms. We need to reform our economy so that it gives confidence. There's a question about, they said that reforms are critical to our economy, and today unemployment is up. We need to reduce that. We need to get more people working so that they can have an income, that they be able to look after them first, and of course it will enable the government to receive income and revenue from the spending that these families will do. And the only way that you can do, governments are not going to go out and have a social program and put everybody on a payroll. That I can assure you, it's impossible. That is why we need to make sure that we encourage businesses to invest more money into our country. When businesses are doing well, they will employ more people because they need skills. If the big investment projects that we have been playing around with for the last 2 years, if they are not going to invest, all they are waiting is 2022 elections. That's my gut feeling. But they shouldn't wait till 2022. They must invest now, and they come into the country now. Our government needs to get down there and be consistent with its decisions. Be consistent with its policies. Not the minister saying something different and the prime minister saying something different, and of course another minister who's not responsible coming out and saying something different. That gives no confidence to anybody. They don't know where the policy will be settled, and as a result, nobody invests in the country. So I will say that, yes, I agree that we need new reforms and incentives in place so that we can encourage investment and stimulate the economy so employment can continue to increase. The other issue is that, of course, we talk about foreign investors are too afraid. Yeah, I agree that, as I said before, when policies and when they see instability in the country, you will find that nobody wants to come into the country, because this is their money that they are trying to invest. It's not something that they are doing a charity. They are here to make money. That's the reality. But we also must make sure that out of the investment we get our fair share, and that is the balance that our governments and our leaders need to find, a fair share under the laws that we have in our country. Of course, we talk about, we said that, listen, we need to amend the Central Bank Act, and so that we can print more cash, and what will happen to the value of our kina? A very good question, because as you can see, over the last few years, the currency value of our currency has been declining. Even though there's small decline, but on the overall scheme of things, it's almost sometimes up to 20% decline of our economy, of our currency. That affects purchasing power of our currency. So that even the loans that we are borrowing from overseas cost more to repay. The interest, even though they are fixed, continuously flooding the market with bonds and so forth, does not help. What we need is new hard foreign currency coming into the country. They must find a way to settle the Papua LNG project. They must give confidence to PNG LNG project. They must make sure that Pogra is back online as quickly as possible. They must make sure this argument between the silly argument between the provincial government of Morobe and the national government and the two party leaders, party leader and the deputy party leader, their priorities should be our people and our country, not about their personalities. They must settle the Wafi Golpu project and the agreement, so give the investors the confidence they require. If they don't, they will walk away. We are not the only mining country in the world. We are not the only oil exporting country in the world. But we have to have a balanced framework in which they can come and invest. They have a fair value, and we get our fair return on the resource that we have. So this is a balance that we need to have. And so I think it is important that we continue to work. The other question is, if you become PM again, will you reduce income tax? Well, I'm recording this conversation today, and if there's an opportunity for PNC to be part of our government, I can assure you that one thing that we will do is adhere to what I've said: reduce tax if the economy is struggling, make sure if the commodity prices are, there's circumstances that will dictate this. Commodity prices remain as high as today. If the economy continues to struggle at the end of 22, we have no choice but to take these measures. That means reduction of taxes so that people can be able to have more money in their pockets and be able to look after themselves, and of course the GST revenue will increase the tax revenue for the state as well. We also talk about tax-free. The tax-free zones are okay. This is a good concept to try and develop the most remotest areas where no investor will go in there, and we can attract investors to go in those remote areas. So we can open up our country, and but that's a short-term measure. No community can survive in a tax-free environment. We need to invest in public infrastructure, roads, bridges, hospitals, schools. So at some stage, those companies who even enjoy tax-free status in some of those areas must be able to pay some taxes to the I think that these are the issues that are confronting us, and we can continue to do so. There's a question about so the current government can do it by learning from the mistake. What is stopping them? Yes, I agree with you. Not everyone will make a perfect decision. We all will make mistakes, but these mistakes must be made with proper advice. Not made, but if mistakes are made against advice and circumstances that have been given to them, and on advice, proper advice. Assumptions that one will make when we produce budget. We say about interest rates, we are making assumptions. When you talk about oil prices and gold prices, we are making assumptions. What will be the price in 12 months' time? What will be the price in 6 months' time? No one can predict that. When we were in government, no one predicted that the oil prices would collapse from $100 US dollars per barrel to down to $30 US per barrel. I mean, that's more than 70% decline. Nobody can predict that. Even global experts could not predict that. So I think it's important that we set our assumptions and budget framework in realistic, close to realistic. The best realistic guide is the previous year's performance. That should give you a guidance on what the economy will perform the following year. And that's how we see it. Somebody asked, in terms of SPM, what's your economic reforms that you will set forward for the country? As I said, we have to live within our means, cut costs. We're probably the only government when we were in government that put more money into the development budget, trying to build infrastructure in the country, and at the same time reducing the recurrent budget. That is trying to say, listen, we are kind of consume all the time. We must develop something, build roads, build infrastructure, build airports, build ports. These are things that will drive the economy. Build energy, power supply, grid. Those are investments that we have made. And as I said, we can travel the country and name everything, but it's not about getting named. It's about delivering services to our people, making sure that we improve their living standards, and give them a quality service that they deserve in this country. And we know that it is not something that we can continue to do a miracle, and nobody can come in here and promise the world and say, I will do this and I will do that. It is simply doing the hard yards and doing the hard work. And I think if we all work together, we can achieve that. One question that's coming in is what are the new terms of the new POGRA deal? Is it good for our economy? The POGRA deal, as far as I can see it, is saying that 15% of the equity is a free carry given to PNG, both the provincial government and the landowners. The balance of the 53 or so percent that they negotiated, or 51% that they negotiated, they have to pay for it. Which will be funded by Barrick. So I am not aware, I don't know what the cost of that funding will be. So Barrick will pay for it, reopen the mine, return the loan back to Barrick before we even get dividends. So state will have zero dividends. And of course, the losses that Barrick has incurred, from my understanding, is that they will recover the losses first. So I think the mine is now close to over 12 months, 15 months now. So when you have that kind of losses that have been sustained by an operation like that, so when they are recovering their losses, we are not going to even get company tax from there. The only revenue that we are going to get in the country is salaries and wages tax. But again, the build up to production will be slow because they're going to recruit experts and specialists first before they have a full employment in the mine. So when you analyze all these things, the time that PNG will get funding out of is down the track. But listen, there's no magic solution. Mistakes have been made. We have to acknowledge that. We should not have shut down the mine. We should have continued discussing with Barrick while the mine was continuing to operate. Because starting up is not easy. We should have we should have learned from the experience that we have had in Bougainville. When we shut down the Bougainville after the first pylon collapsed, we could not go back in there and reopen it. So, and now it remains shut. So those kind of experiences should have taken note of, and then we continue to work towards it. So that's my thoughts. Mistakes, remember, let's get the mine open. A government has already now signed an agreement. Next government cannot go in there and review it. We'll have to honor that agreement. But let's get a mine opening. Those small businesses that are now suffering and closed in Bogota needs to reopen. Landowners, I am very aware that banks and finance companies are repossessing some of the equipment, heavy equipment that landowners used to have as part of the mine operation. They have been repossessed and sold as second-hand. To restart is not easy, and their credibility has been also compromised. Not their doing. These people are hard-working people. So we need to get the small businesses there going, and then we get a few more businesses reopening and restart the economy of Pogra and the surrounding communities. I know that there are some questions about UBS and Commission of Inquiry that's taken about UBS loan and things. And I've stated publicly that I cannot make comments which are still before the Commission. I think it's important that we allow the Commission to go through it. I hope that the truth will come out, and that is that there's a proposition by some that we have lost 3 billion kina or some amount of money. I don't think that is the case. Like any loan, we have to pay interest. We have to repay the loan as well. Let the experts go through the details, and then we will know the truth. But 3 billion kina that people are saying that we have lost, firstly, I don't believe we've ever had 3 billion in our asset anyway. Because what we have done is that amount of money was already value of oil shares mortgaged to get a loan from the Arabs, and then the Arabs decided to keep the shares. So we never really had the 3 billion kina that we say we did. It secured the loan in the Arab, and they kept it. The new loan from UBS was to try and secure our shares that we lost. We tried to get it from oil shares. So, but I don't need to continue on this discussion because it will be unfair of me to try and discuss what is before the. And I intend to appear again, and I'm hoping to conclude like everybody else. Look at the conclusions of the Commission of Inquiries. We, as a government, we made some decisions, and we'll take responsibility for it. Whether it was a right decision at the time or not, time will tell. But it was based on circumstance and advice and things that were on hand at that time, and we will be able to. We will continue to stand by it. We are not going to change our mind halfway and say, "Oh, I blame this guy or that guy." We are not in the blame game. We must take responsibility of our actions, and we will certainly do so. Lastly, is the good treasurer getting advice, or does he rely on international advice? Well, as I've publicly stated on the floor of Parliament, someone is asking me that question, and I can say this. I stand to be corrected, but some of the consultants that have been employed by Treasury or through a treasurer are people who have been sacked by our Treasury Department before, people who have been sacked by the Australian Treasury Department of Australian government. Now, there's got to be a reason why two major governments of the region sack. But let me conclude by saying this. I want to thank each one of you. And last question, they're saying that value of kina is falling. People want to know why it's falling. We are printing more money and more kina in the circulation. There's no new foreign direct investment in the country, no hard currency coming into the country. As a result, the kina is falling, and the demand of kina the people who are lining up to foreign currency at the banks is long. So if you want to send money to pay for health